Hi, and welcome back to My River District. I'm your host, Viveca Gravel, River District Coordinator for the City of Owen Sound and, of course, the River District. And this is a show all about Owen Sound, its businesses, and why locals love it here. And I am sitting down today with Zach Keeshig. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you very much.
And he's going to share with us a whole bunch of stuff he's been up to that didn't fit on a cue card. So this is 2024.
2024, yeah.
So we've got a lot to catch up on. You were with me in 2021 or 22.
Well,
I think it was season 1.
I was trying to remember when it was that I was here last, because you'd reached out and I was like, when was it I was there last? Because I think you were downtown in the old
Bank
Montreal,
building.
Old Montreal bank there.
Yeah, it was very podcast.
Yeah, very podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, all I see now when I go on social media is something new that you're up to.
Well, we've been very, very fortunate over the past year. I think what we're doing is, I don't know, it's just caught on. We're starting to get recognized for the hard work that I've put in over the past, I don't know, probably since I started cooking, actually. Like,
Sure.
I'm 33 now. I started cooking when I was 15, 16. So I've been cooking for over 15 years already, but gone on my own probably the past, I think I started doing the sort of pop-ups at the farmer's market about 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were really in them when we sat down and talked last.
Yeah.
And you were starting to kind of do stuff kind of outside of that and stuff. But now you've just kind of like lit a flame and...
Yeah, I'm not too sure what it is.
Yeah.
It's been awfully nice. I think it's because nobody's doing this kind of food, right? Like, nobody's really pushed the boundaries, or there's been no sort of a recognizable Indigenous chef doing Indigenous food.
Yeah.
So I think that is what has garnished us the attention and sort of the accolades that we've gotten over the past year or so.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting to kind of watch how things happen. Everybody is very focused on growing and eating local and stuff. And so who were the first people to do that? The Indigenous people. So we're looking to different communities to teach us how to live off of the land.
Well, that's what I always say. Like, there's always been this big farm to table sort of movement. And I feel like Indigenous people were doing that stuff before
it was hip.
Before
it
it
was
was hip, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I've focused on the past. Like, I've really restricted myself in my cooking to sort of what our people were eating around Georgian Bay, around this area. And we've really honed in on that in our cooking the past probably year and a half or so. Like, we get all of our fish straight from Indigenous suppliers, straight from the boat.
Okay.
So this week we could get whitefish. Next week we could get lake trout. We started cooking with small game birds like quails. We were able to start getting Indigenous hunters to start shooting stuff for us.
Okay.
So we started cooking with Canadian goose and does and things like that, which has been quite nice. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I myself have had local cuisine and local meat in particular, and it's just so nice.
It is. Well, I'm just glad that we got. Well, just Indigenous people weren't eating pork and they weren't eating chicken and stuff like that. So I really wanted to get back to sort of the roots of sort of traditional cooking, but using the experience that I have from working in these Michelin star restaurants and, you know, the best restaurants in Canada and sort of mingle those two together to come up with sort of a progressive style of Indigenous food.
Yeah.
Because when I had first started this, I started at the farmer's market. So we just laid out one long plastic table. We invited 12 people there for $50 a person, you know what I mean, to try 7 courses. And at the time, it felt like I was just replicating dishes that I had learned from previous masters that I had worked with.
Sure.
And then it finally, a few years later, I wanted to sort of specialize in something real special. And I went back to the reserve that I'm from, and I wanted to try and recreate old recipes that my grandmother and my aunts and everybody were cooking. And I'm not sure if it's because of colonization or what it's from, but there were no recipes, right?
Sure.
So that was when at the time we were like, oh, maybe we'll do a progressive style. We'll go out and we'll forge things. We'll source things from farms. We'll grow our own stuff. We'll get things shot. And then we'll use that in our cooking. And that's sort of where we're at today.
That's very cool. And you're teaching people how to do some of these things, and particularly the forage and woodland dining events and things.
Yeah, so that took off probably. So a bit of a funny story. I used to know, he unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but there used to be a local mushroom guru. His name was Bill Proud.
Out of Meaford?
No, out of Owen Sound here, but he was sort of a local mushroom man. And I remember at the time, he was a neighbor to my mother, and I was working. I forget where I was working. I think I was working at Langdon Hall, or I had just finished at Cobble Beach, and he used to bug me to go foraging for mushrooms with him. But at the time, I thought, being a young kid, I thought he was this hippie going out picking psychedelic mushrooms and things like that.
Well, I mean, well, you're there.
Yeah. Then afterwards, like as I started working these restaurants, I noticed everybody was cooking with like wild mushrooms and wild herbs and things like that. So when I eventually moved back to Owen Sound, I went back to Bill and I was sort of like, teach me your ways there, sensei, sort of thing. And I don't know, after that, I sort of got bit by this like metaphorical foraging bug kind of thing where I just dove right deep into like wild plants that were growing around our area, what there was that I could cook with, and like at the start, I made some pretty crappy food.
Sure.
Learning how to cook with this stuff, but then eventually you hone in on it, and you learn your craft sort of thing, and that's sort of where we're at today.
Well, and I mean, foraging and stuff, especially in this area this time of year, we've got morels. We've got some mushrooms that look like morels that are not morels.
Well, it's so weird because I was cooking in, I think it was last year, I was cooking in PEI. We cooked for Michael Smith on TV there, which was pretty neat. But there was this forager guy who took me out because I wanted to go foraging for some of the ingredients that I was using in the dinner there. And they eat all that stuff that's supposed to be poisonous. Like he was eating the false morels. He was eating, what is it? I can't remember what it is, but he was eating all that sort of stuff that was poisonous, like the young shoots. They would blanch them and then roast them and stuff like that. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, I did read in like one of these many threads about all of these things happening in our region is that like if you cooked them very, very well, they weren't poisonous anymore.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I guess.
I've never tried it myself, but
no, I myself love to pick wild leeks or ramps.
Wild leeks,
yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah, we were just so we just did the last two of our forage and dine on the weekend there. We had 16, and I think we had 10. But I always take them to go see what the wild ramps are and how to harvest them, because like it takes like 4 to 7 years, I think it is, for ramps to repopulate themselves. So I always tell them like the responsibility of the foraging, that we only pick maybe 5%, or we just pick the greens and stuff like that. But right now, the plant's gone to flower. So it has these beautiful, almost like chive blossom flowers that are very garlicky that we've started using in our cooking too. It's beautiful.
Neat.
Yeah, very neat.
I didn't know you could eat any other part of the plant.
Yeah, the flowers are nice.
But yeah, they're great. Every season we would go out and my father-in-law has a large piece of property and stuff. So they were just like littered with ramps. Yeah. And we would come out with a bucket full and we just like freeze them and wash them. And it's a labor of love.
Oh, especially when you're doing this kind of cooking. Like we started, there's staghorn sumac that grows around Owen Sound, like wild sumac.
Okay.
And it's normally used, you might have heard of it, it's usually used in a spice called za'atar.
Okay.
So indigenous people around here, they would pick the sumac in August, early September, and they would make sort of a sumac lemonade. So they would soak those little red cones, I call them, in cold water overnight. You can put some mulberries in there or black currants just to give it a bit more color. And after you steep it overnight, you strain it through like cheesecloth, just to make sure you get any debris out.
Sure.
And then you sweeten it afterwards with like a bit of honey, and then you got yourself like a wild sumac lemonade.
Amazing.
But we started going a step further, and we would harvest the sumac, pick all the berries off, dry them, and then blend it in like a little spice grinder.
Right.
And then you have yourself like a sumac powder, like a seasoning powder. But it's so labor intensive, a lot of this stuff. But I think once again, that's sort of why we've gotten recognized for what we're doing, because we're going back to the old times, right? Like harvesting things straight from the ground and then cooking them for people.
It makes you appreciate
100%.
everything you're eating more.
Well, that's why I started doing this stuff too. Right? I wanted people to see where food came from and the abundance of things that you're able to eat around here. And maybe we use a farmer, like Anita DeJong, maybe we get something from her, and then we'll showcase that in our menu, and then people know that she's got pork, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember through COVID, people were going crazy because there wasn't any ground pork in Walmart or something like that. But people like Anita or things like that are begging for people like us to go and buy from them, right?
Yeah, so, local farmers,
exactly.
Local meat.
Yeah, but we try our best as much as we can to help support and put a light on those people in our cooking now.
So right before we go to break, can you tell me a few of the other things that people would could genuinely have in their backyards that you're working with?
Well, right now, what is out is stinging nettle. It's sort of like a wild spinach almost.
Okay.
So you give it a quick blanch, then you can saute it up if you want to. We make like a progressive ravioli. We'll make like a stinging nettle pasta.
Okay.
Fill it with a sunchoke puree. There's tons of flowers that are starting to come out right now. Like forget-me-nots are edible.
Are they?
Yeah, forget-me-nots are totally edible. They're in the borage family.
Okay, so like, do they have a flavor, or are they just kind of like a
decorative? They're just beautiful. Yeah,
okay.
They're beautiful. They don't have too much of a flavor. But there's lots of watercress out right now. Pheasant back mushrooms are out right now.
Wouldn't even know what that looks like.
Yeah, so there's tons of stuff. Wild ginger's out right now. So there's quite a bit of things.
And so you take people out and you will show them in areas what's growing and how to pick it and how to sustainably pick it as well.
Yeah.
That's wild. I think it's so cool. And I think it's so important that we know, where our food is coming from, have some appreciation for the people who are, collecting it for us and feeding us and stuff like that. So we're going to go to break, but when we get back, we're going to talk about the other 3/4 of this list.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Carol Merton. We All Belong, Voices of Lived Experiences is a Rogers TV program that tells about the struggles for survival for those who are marginalized and vulnerable in our community. Please join me for Voices of Lived Experiences on Rogers TV.
Hey, it's Krista McKee here of Wandering Grey Bruce. I am so excited to bring to you the 5th season of the show. We're going to meet some very exciting and interesting people. Stay tuned. This season, we are going to Chantry Island, visiting southern Grey County to explore barn quilts, and we have an exclusive interview with the Coast Guard at Tobermory. So join me on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Tiffany James, the host of Her Story. Join us on Rogers TV as I interview various women in our community on how they found success in their own way.
Hi, and we're back with Zach Keeshig, who has been busy.
Yes, we have. Been very fortunate the past year. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm just going down some of this, and so you have a feature likely out now in the LCBO Food and Wine magazine.
I do.
So jealous.
Like I was just saying to you, I remember collecting that stuff when, I don't know, just when I was in my teens, right, and always wanting to be in that magazine and things like that. And then they reached out last year and were like, hey, do you want a little spot in this for our summer issue? And I was like, yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, I drove right down to Toronto, did it, and then I was waiting for it to come out because I couldn't remember what they said, and then somebody had posted it the one day, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. So of course I ran my way up to the LCBO and grabbed myself a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have just been sitting there in the studio being like, stay cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It wasn't as bad as I thought. We went to this kind of creepy warehouse and we're taking pictures and stuff, and then I don't know. It was good though.
Just like creepy warehouse.
Yeah.
But it was totally fine,
Yeah.
totally normal. We're lucky the magazine came out. You're working with schools.
Yes.
How does that work?
I feel like the art of this style of chef is dying. So I wanted to make sure that I could pass on my knowledge, because I feel like when people think of chefs nowadays and the skill that goes into this stuff and how to butcher a fish or how to break down a goose or, you know what I mean? Not too many people know how to do that anymore. And
Just go to the butcher.
well, people have taken the quick route. Like people go to Boston Pizza and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I don't call that being a chef sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I always wanted to pass on sort of the knowledge that I've attained, being able to work for some of the best chefs in Canada, you know what I mean? Because not everybody's had the opportunities that I have, and I just wanted to give back. So that's sort of where we're at today. I was the culinary coordinator at a non-for-profit, where we did, I did all the culinary education. We built huge, beautiful gardens for us to use in our cooking, for teaching and all that sort of stuff. And I'd split off with them probably about 3 years ago now. And we decided to go on our own and really make a name for ourselves in our own teaching. So along with the restaurant, now we do the foraging walks with students from Blue Water District School Board, non-for-profit, at-risk youth, You know what I mean? We'll do cooking classes with them.
Well, and that's the time you got to reach out to a kid, right? Like when they're still in that like absorbing everything stage,
100%.
so they understand and they grow up with that feeling and carry it on.
Well, even now, like my kids think chicken just shows up in a grocery store, right? Like, well, I remember
it's not attached to anything.
You know
it's
what I
not
mean?
raised.
Like, I feel like when I was working with Michael Statlander before, like we had to kill all of our own chickens and ducks and things like that. Like I feel like everybody in their life should do that at least once, so that we know where we have more of appreciation for food, right?
Okay, but in my defense, my dad, when he was young, worked at a chicken farm, and he told me so many stories. So I will never go near a live chicken.
Well, that's what happens when chickens are pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this story real quick. I remember I was at Michael's and we used to have to do this feeding every morning. And I remember I went into the duck pen one morning, and I don't know if it was a fisher or a raccoon. I went in there and shredded these ducks to pieces. Oof. And the ducks and the chickens were free range, and they would go together, like they would run the field together and stuff like that. But these chickens would peck the ducks and eat them alive.
Oh God!
It was crazy. Yeah.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Yeah. If I had to do it, I'd be a vegetarian.
Yeah, 100%. Some of the stuff you see. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's true. Like people need to know where their food is coming from.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, my kid is 4. And we were eating hamburgers or something, and she's just like, beef is a cow. And I'm like, okay, you know that. That's great.
That's good.
Because so many don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. What else? You are opening up a restaurant.
We are.
In the Chicago building.
We are. The old historic building there. So the past few years, I've been very fortunate that Richard and Morag had let me use the Owen Sound Farmers Market as sort of a pop-up restaurant where we would go in Saturday. We would literally tear everything out sort of where they do the market there. We would make a mock restaurant for 2 nights and then tear it all back down kind of thing. And we've done that for the past 2 years almost with some good success.
Yeah.
And towards the fall, probably as soon as it gets cold out, it gets a little too cold for people to sit out there.
Yep.
So last year we had closed down, I think it was November 1st or so. And it was just time for us to find our own building, have our own space, and, you know, have the restaurant. Like we're going to be doing our tasting menu, probably about 10 courses, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 17 guests. And then as well as that, we're going to use the space for our culinary education as well. So we'll do teaching Wednesday, Thursday, and then service. And then during the week, I don't think we're going to go back to farmers markets anymore. Like we might as well sell our bread and our smoked fish and our beverages on say a set day, like a Thursday. People can come and buy this stuff from us. So I think that's what we're going to do this year.
That's very cool. I'm excited to see that kind of progress and come to fruition.
Yes, it's looking beautiful in there. We put in a lot of work. Like we took over January 1st. We tore everything out. We redid the walls, redid the floors, and we're getting close.
It looks great.
Yes.
I've been driving by and just being so nosy the whole time, looking to see when people were in there doing stuff. Because I'm so excited that it's in the River District. Like this is, it's the heart of the city, and I'm just so glad that you're part of that. And we've got so many different kinds of food available there that it's definitely the place to be for culinary experience in town.
Well, people were always, you should come down to Toronto. You should come down to Toronto and do stuff. And I was like, no, like I want to make where, like I'm originally from Nawash. I was born in Wyerton, but I've lived in Owen Sound most of my life. So I wanted to make Owen Sound a culinary destination. Like I feel with what we're doing, they just brought Michelin stars to Canada, that we're going to win a Michelin star eventually. We're going to be on the Canada's 100 Best list. We're going to, like, you know what I mean? These accolades are going to come for what we're doing, I think.
I love that. And you know that the River District is here to support you in all of it.
I believe in it, yeah.
Absolutely. And I can't wait myself to sit down in that space and enjoy. What does that look like for the classes and stuff that you're going to run? Do you have an idea? Have you kind of created a framework for that?
I'm not 100% sure quite yet. I think we'll still do our Blue Water District School Board classes like during the day with schools, but then I think I'm going to open to the public at night. Like with our forging stuff, our forging classes this year, like we normally just do it strictly for schools, but I opened it up to the public because people were asking me about it, and they almost all sold out real fast. You know what I mean? So I think we'll continue on with both of them.
That's awesome. Yeah. I want to participate in that.
Yes,
100%. So like you've been, oh my gosh, this is a very overwhelming list. Let's talk about Birch ice cream.
Birch ice cream.
I
yes.
saw that. I was like, we need to talk about this.
Well, so that came. There's no produce around really in the wintertime, or
Sure.
no fresh herbs or lavender to make an ice cream with. So I was told before that people used to make a flour out of birch bark,
Okay.
and then you could make like a bread.
So like the peel off stuff, or like below that?
Below that, you could dry that out and make a flour with it. So what we started doing is we would find birch bark, but that we would harvest the outer sort of shell of it. Well, because indigenous people were making baskets out of it, doing different things like that. So I was like, oh, I wonder if we could make sort of an ice cream out of it. So we would burn it, and then we would soak it in the cream, strain it out into our egg yolks, so they're duck eggs that we use.
Okay.
And then,
So it's rich.
Oh, it's very rich. Oh, we stopped using chicken eggs because indigenous weren't using chickens
Sure.
around here. They were foraging goose eggs or wild duck eggs. And then afterwards, we sweeten it with birch syrup.
Okay.
And then we make this little sort of tweel out of chaga that grows on birch trees. And then before the dish goes out, we burn the birch bark so that people can smell the birch
Wild.
too. Like it sounds very, very strange, the ice cream, but it's beautiful. Like it's rich, it's sweet, it's a little smoky. Like it's very, very nice.
So compared to like maple syrup,
Yeah.
is it like the same process to get it there to a syrup?
Birch is a lot. Like it's almost, I think it's 100 to 1 almost. Like,
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And
So
it's,
very small quantities.
very small quantities, and it almost tastes a bit like it's very tart, kind of like balsamic vinegar, kind of almost.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit sweet, a bit acidic. Yeah, it goes nice.
Okay. Very interesting. I definitely want to try that at some point. And also, tweel are not very easy to make. So good for you.
No, we used we get these silicone molds and we have to spread it out, bake it, get it out with tweezers, kind of
Without
thing.
it breaking.
Yeah, without
Yeah.
it breaking. Yeah.
No schlub here.
Yeah.
And you spent the winter traveling around Canada.
I did. I was very fortunate. I don't know, just over the past 2 years that I've been invited out to, I don't know, a ton of places. I've been out to Victoria, been out to PEI. I've been to Winnipeg twice to film a TV show, and then we were just in Winnipeg again this year for Raw Almond, which is really cool. I met these people. His name is Mandel Hitzler. He has a restaurant in Winnipeg called Deer and Almond.
Okay.
So they closed down their restaurant for, I can't remember how long it is, maybe a month or two. And they build this pop-up restaurant on the ice for like 60 days and invite the best chefs around the world to come and cook for 2 nights for guests. So I think it was 30, 20, 40, 60. It was about 100 guests.
Like
2
out
nights.
in a bay?
Out in the bay. This year was a little too warm, so they put it just along the side of the water there. But it was beautiful. It was just so cool.
That is wild. I couldn't
Yeah.
even imagine, because I've ice fished and things like that.
Yeah.
And wearing snow pants and a big jacket cooking. Sounds great.
It wasn't kind of like that. Like they literally set up this hut that was where for diners to sit, and in the
Okay.
back they built this kitchen.
Very
so
cool.
it was very, very cool. I don't know.
Very
cool
cool.
experience.
Do you have any pictures of that anywhere?
I do. I think on our social media there's a bunch of them. It was a very neat experience.
Okay, I want to see more of that for sure. And then, of course, you've been at the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair.
Yeah.
You were chosen on a list of 40 change makers and innovators,
Yes.
the local hospitality industry, who are driving innovation and change. Love that.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Change is not easy.
No. And I think that's what. Once again, I think that's sort of what's brought us to where we are. Is we're making a change. Like I'm a big advocate for putting Indigenous food on the map. Like. You hear, even around here, you hear about Chinese food, you hear about French food, you hear about all this other stuff. But when have you ever heard anybody go out and say, hey, I want to go to like a progressive Indigenous restaurant who's doing Indigenous food? And I think that's where I've been able to, I don't know, use my voice and put a stamp on the map of Canada with what we're doing.
No, I love it. And I will be waiting and watching for those Michelin stars.
Yes.
I think that's very cool. And I myself have eaten at many, many French restaurants, but am very excited to try something different and not new. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so what do you have coming up next? You've had collaborations with Sumac and Salt. Do you have anything like that coming up now?
We just did one with the Pine last week. The Pine is another, we've been very fortunate that we've started working with people who are very high on the 100 best list. So we just did one with the Pine in their new space in Creemore. If you haven't checked it out, you have to check it out. They're doing some amazing things. Some of the best food in Canada. We're doing one with Canoe in Toronto this Saturday, actually, with Ron McKinley. Once again, probably some of the best butchery I've seen from a chef in Canada using Canadian ingredients. Then we're back down in Toronto again Monday to do a small intimate tasting menu with some people. And then some of my biggest mentors that I love is the people from Promo or Set. They're out in Jordan near Niagara.
Okay.
But they're world-class food, world-class tasting menu. They have a farm right on their property. They grow almost all their own produce.
Wow.
They forage, they source locally. They've been on, I think they're number 6 right now on the Best of Canada. And I was invited actually there in the second week of June because they're bringing judges up from San Pellegrino 50 World Best list.
Okay.
So we're doing an intimate dinner for about 10, 11 of those judges, which would be,
No
which would be
pressure.
nice. Yeah. Well, I was a little nervous, and they're like, no, just do what you do, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And everything will be fun. Because I was some of this stuff, it's a little nerve wracking sometimes, but
I bet.
yeah, especially for your first time. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got about 2 minutes left. I want to ask you a very specific question, and it is, why do you, as a local, love it here?
I love it in Owen Sound here because I've had, I don't know, people support me with my vision and what I think food should be and what I wanted to do with food. Mm-hmm. When I first started doing this stuff, people were like, "Oh, you're crazy! People aren't going to come to this sort of stuff." And then I've had support from Anita De Jong. I've had support from my other chef friends, and I think that's the biggest thing, and especially just the abundance of local food that's around here. Like we started using bison this year.
We have bison?
There's a bison farm just outside of Kemble.
No way.
Yeah, so we're using bison this year.
Okay.
The amount of fresh fish that comes out of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron is some like world class, best in Canada. You know what I mean? And just the amount of wild plants and farms and things like that. I think that's why I wanted to stay in Owen Sound and put Owen Sound on the map of Canada because I'm from Nawash and I was born in Wyerton. But we're close enough that we can, you know what I mean? We can still put these places on the map of Canada as a food scene.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes,
this is one heck of a way to go out on my season 3.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to give you your badge of honor. Locals love it here.
Thank you very much.
Because you definitely just encapsulate everything that means. What is your website?
Our website is down right now because we're revamping it for the new opening of the restaurant. But if people want to follow along on our journey for when we get that done, they can follow us on Instagram at Chef Zach Keeshig, and then they can follow us on Facebook at Noggin by Zach Keeshig.
Glorious. And I follow both of those, and I look forward to seeing what comes up next. And we will stay in touch and make sure that we get that out to the community as best we can.
Perfect. Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining me on another episode of My River District, and we'll see you maybe next season.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend